Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new mini-series. I say it's a mini-series because I don't think this series is going to be one of those that goes on indefinitely. It's probably going to be maybe a 3 or 4-parter, and this being the first one. So I like to call this series Grails, some of my Grails. So it's not really the title, but it really focuses on what I think are some of the Grails in my collection. Now I know when you say Holy Grail in the comic book world, everybody has like different types of grails or grail. I mean, in reality, when it comes to the story of the Holy Grail, there was only one. So I think the term grails is overused, but I'll play along. I'll play along with it for now. But I do genuinely think that these books that I'm going to show, not only in this video, but in this series, like I said, it's only going to be a limited series, are definitely grail worthy. And I know they're going to be expensive. You know, you get those comments, oh, how come you only choose the expensive ones? Because most of the Grail books for people tend to be pricey. You know, people like a Fantastic Four #1 because of what it is. It's the first issue for introduction of the Marvel Universe, introduction of the Fantastic Four, and it, of course, it's expensive. So naturally, Grail books tend to be expensive when people are showing them. This is my Grail, or that's my Grail. Something that takes a certain amount of effort, perhaps a certain amount of time and dedication in order to get it. And money is usually one of those factors. It takes a while for someone to pay for it, or something to that effect. And then, of course, there are other things that are involved too. Just finding it. People may have the money, but they can't find it or find the right copy for them. Whatever it is, that's usually part of the process of acquiring a Grailish book. All right. So I have 3 here, and I'll talk a little bit about them. I'm not putting them. I'm just randomly showing you them. Here we have Crime Patrol 15. Now this is something you've seen on my channel many times. Now why have you seen that? Why did you see this on my channel many times? Because it's a Grail, and I like to show off the Grails. So this video is just another pip on the collar of why it's so important to really show how important it is. Okay. So Crime Patrol 15, for those that don't know, this is the first appearance of the Crypt Keeper and the Cryptid Terror. If you've watched my channel before, which many of you have, you know that the Crypt Keeper and Tales from the Crypt is a very important series for me. I recently completed my Tales from the Crypt run, which means from Crime Patrol 15, which I just showed you, all the way to Tales from the Crypt 46. It's a very important series for me. That is when I started to take notice of comic books through the HBO show, realizing that I've become aware at that time, that these were comics. So I started looking for them, and I first found them in reprint form. So that was really my introduction to comic books. I've known, excuse me, I've known of comic book characters in the past, like around the same time the Tales from the Crypt show came out. Batman just came out in the movie theaters, so I knew about Batman. But years before that, I knew of Superman, I knew of the Green Lantern, and Spider-Man. So I've known about those characters, but I've never picked up a comic or even had a desire to pick up a comic based on any of those characters. It wasn't until Tales from the Crypt, it wasn't until the Crypt Keeper, again, like I said, who makes his debut here, when I said to myself, I want to actually go out and get a comic. I would very much be interested in reading this story I just saw on the TV in comic book form. I think that would be very interesting, because up until that point, comic books to me were like what I just said. They were Superman, they were Spider-Man, they were the Green Lantern, they were Wonder Woman. I expect superheroes and supervillains like that. I don't expect to see blood and guts and murder and all that other stuff that's on the show in comics. I would very much like to see how the comic books portrayed this. And that's what brought me to them. So, hence, that's why it is a Grail. This next one here, when I started collecting, I guess when I started considering myself a comic book collector a few years after the Tales from the Crypt exposure, and I was really getting into X-Men. You know, like I said, it was Tales from the Crypt that brought me to the dance, but it's X-Men and Spider-Man that kept me there. So as I was collecting my X-Men collection, trying to get all the first appearances, all those characters, it was nice to finally get this one, the Incredible Hulk 181. Now I know there's debate. Oh, this is it's not his first appearance. 180. Well, whatever. Whatever you feel like, it doesn't matter. But 181 was important to me because I felt that this is his full appearance, and this is the issue that has the way better cover, because the cover to 180 looks stupid, in my opinion. It doesn't look like it's well drawn at all. And you see Wolverine throughout the entire book here. He's in it constantly. And for what he shows in this book, how he interacts with the Hulk and all the fighting and all those different things, I think you really get a good sense of the character and see what he's capable of. And that's what makes this so special, because you get to really see him in action for the first time, for the first full time in a comic. And now this is not the original copy I purchased. The original copy I purchased, for those that watch my channel, you know the story. I bought it from some schmuck in Canada. And I say he's a schmuck because he was a schmuck. Didn't bother to tell me that the Marvel stamp was removed. Now, I didn't know what the hell the Marvel stamps were. This was within the first year of me collecting. I didn't know. But, I got it. And even though it was missing the Marvel stamp, I still enjoyed the book. But that Marvel stamp really bugged me. I was like, damn, even back then, even when I didn't really understand grading too much, just seeing something missing like that really bothered me. And when I came back to the hobby, years later, I sold that book off. And I remember I had one comment. I mentioned that in a previous video. I was like, oh, I can't believe you sold it off. Well, get over it. I sold it off, and I was happy I sold it off. And I managed to pick up this one. So it's really nice it was really nice to finally upgrade that book and get something that was complete. And also coincidentally, this was my very first CGC book. When I came back to the hobby, I was introduced to CGC. I was like, oh wow, now, that's pretty cool that they put them in these things and they give the grade. That's pretty cool. So when it came around to getting a book that I really, really wanted, at least at that time, an upgrade, Incredible Hulk 181 was the first. So I thought that was really nice. And the last one for this one is, it doesn't really need any introduction, and I don't think anyone would argue that, price aside, that this isn't a Grail book. How many of you have gotten into comics because of Spider-Man? We all get into comic books for many different reasons. Like I said, I told you my story, Tales from the Crypt, and it was X-Men and Spider-Man that kept me there. Other people get into comic books for other characters and other reasons and all sorts of stuff. But a lot of people, and there is a large amount rather, of people in this comic book community, not just on YouTube, just worldwide, that gotten into comic books because of Spider-Man. He is an awesome character. The new movie is coming out in a couple of weeks, the No Way Home. How many people are really excited about this movie, where you get to see all the multi-universe villains come together in the Marvel universe? The talk that the other two Spider-Men, I don't know if they're in it, like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, no matter how you feel on them, there's a certain amount of excitement that they could possibly be in the movie. Spider-Man is awesome. Spider-Man is awesome. You could defend the Fantastic Four and say without the Fantastic Four there's no Marvel Universe. Well, I say without Spider-Man there's no Marvel Universe, because the Fantastic Four didn't carry the Marvel Universe, did it? It was Spider-Man and the X-Men that did, especially in the 1980s and right to this day. And that's why this is a Grail. Not only for me, but I think for a lot of people. Now, when it gets to the price, you know, when I bought it years ago, I had to sell off a lot of different things. Fortunately, I was able to get most of those things back before the price hikes. You know, this is only a 2.0. It's very much a 2.0, which it's fine for me. But it's unfortunate that a lot of people who may feel the same way I feel about Spider-Man may have been priced out of Spider-Man. I remember, I won't spend too much longer on this because I have videos that talk about this, and I'm just regurgitating it to you. But I remember when I finally decided to make the move, and quite a few people helped me with that. You know, quite a few people helped me realize that maybe it's time to make a move. And when I made that move, some people gave me more advice on what to do in order to acquire the Amazing Fantasy 15. I was looking for a 1.5 as long as it didn't have rust on the staples, 1.5. And I think there were a couple other things that I didn't want on my 1.5. You know, you can't be too picky, but Amazing Fantasy, there was certainly plenty of them out there in that grade where you could pick the best 1.5 of the bunch. And I never thought I'd be able to get a 2.0, you know, because that's 2 grades ahead of a 1.5. The idea of possibly getting a 1.8 back then was like, oh wow, that'd be great. Yeah, 1.8, right? But to get a 2.0, I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. So I can understand the frustration that some people may have. But if you are looking for a grail, and I'll leave you with this, whether it's Amazing Fantasy 15, X-Men #1, or whatever you consider a grail, that does require a little bit of money, does require a little bit of research, and these things tend to require those things, among others. Do what you need to do to get them. In realistic terms, of course. I see some memes about all these different things, like, you know, you sold off your house to get an Amazing Fantasy 15. Although funny, I wouldn't do that. But any realistic, non-harmful way that you can achieve your grail goal, I would do it. If that means selling off some things that you can get again, or you really don't care about, I would do it, because you could always sit back and say, look what I got in return. And that's what I do with the fantasy. There were some books that I sold off that I haven't been able to get back and probably won't get back. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Thank you for watching, everybody. Leave in the comments some of your grails. But like I said, there'll be more of these videos coming, with commentary, of course. Take care.